So this upcoming season, I'm moving back to being a defensive coordinator in 2025, coaching defensive backs on that side of the ball. Not a lot of new there for me, but offensive side of the ball, I'll be coaching wide receivers for the first time at the varsity level. So decided to check out this video by Coach Dirk Stevens and Brandon Manuela at American Forks High School in Utah. Coach Stevens is the inside receiver coach, and then Coach Manuela, you can see he's a little bit taller on that football sign in the back there. He coaches the outside receivers, so kind of found it interesting. They are the prototypical slot guy is a little bit shorter, and outside receiver guy a little bit taller, at least in their pictures. First they talk about their practice. Ultimately, they get 2 20-minute periods. They're a big enough school where guys play one way. And ultimately, their goal in that first 20 minutes is EDDs, making sure they got 4 drills out of the 5 kind of categories, 5 minutes each, and making sure they work the places they need to work, stance, release, blocking, route mastery, and just catching with those hands. And then they're big on scramble drill, which they give some film of in games later on. Coach Stevens provides a bunch of links for drills there, and their favorite follow for wide receiver drills. Their passing game at American Forks, Coach Stevens talks about how they're West Coast concepts, so they got horizontal and vertical stretches, your typical West Coast routes. Very successful, 60% completion percentage, 500 plus attempts. And then they end up going really in depth with a ton of coaching details, a bunch of little fine details about receiver and quarterback play of their various passes. They talk about attacking a variety of coverages, what kind of routes and concepts they want to run. A lot of the times they'll still run a concept into a certain coverage, but they're going to adjust some of the routes, and they ultimately are using R4 terminology of rhythm read, rush, and release with their quarterbacks. First thing they talk about is smash. What I really took away from it is adjust that low route to be an advantage for the offense. Obviously the classic hitch, but sometimes they'll run what's called a ghost route, which is kind of show a slant and then put your foot in the ground and break out to create some extra space. Sometimes just a straight out route, depending on what the defense is giving you. They get a bunch of clips. Snag, and again, it's adjust the concept by the receivers, adjust the concepts to make sure you're creating space for yourself and for your other receivers based on the coverage that you're getting. Other key coaching point was make sure whoever's running that snag sit down route reduces their split a bit to 5 to 6 yards. And again, a bunch of film on that. Their levels, what really caught my eye, using R4 terminology, that rhythm route, most defenses are going to take away that top route, and the short read routes underneath in traffic, they end up ridiculously wide open. They get lost. So that was neat to watch. Curl flat, talked extensively about it. Learned this is what teams call the Hank concept. They want the curls at 14 to 12 yards, and Coach Manuela ends up talking a great deal over and over again about not running whiteboard routes. You have the basic concept that you teach initially, but his job as a wide receiver coach is constantly teaching those guys how to stem their routes and create space and find spots in the defense, in the coverage, to sit down wide open. Curl flat out of multiple formations. They end up going over a variation where they're exchanging the routes, and just ridiculous amount of film on all this stuff. And then Coach Manuela, he shows a great example. Just both of those receivers at both the top and bottom of the screen, they are really wide open because of how they stem their routes to manipulate the defensive back, get his hips turned, things like that. They go over their spacing concept. They really like to throw it into boundary pressure if it comes, and to the field. There's always space to the field. Their verticals concept, again, they're going to adjust the outside routes. Sometimes it's a shorter route, sometimes it's a deeper route, and sometimes it's just let's all get vertical. And it's the idea you need to stem those routes based on the coverage that you're expecting, based on the body language of the defensive back, and based on sometimes the pressure coming from the defense. verticals out of a couple different formations, and then some tape of their scramble drill. Ultimately, Coach Stevens talks about how it's preparing guys for the chaos that does happen at times on the football field by repping it and allowing those guys to be in position to go make a play. You know, guys make a play when they're prepared, and as much as you can't prepare for the chaos that is a scramble drill, you can practice scramble drill. And they get some simple rules. If you're closest to the sideline, the quarterback's rolling to, your job is to break down. Everyone else is to break flat across the field, try and make sure they're open. Always be working to space is the kind of general rule. So wide receiver play by American Forks, Coach Stevens, Coach Manuela. Check it out if you are interested in understanding game planning for coverages and taking advantage of defensive back play and some of the matchups you're going to get. Lots of tape of passing concepts, as I mentioned: smash, snag, levels, crow flat, spacing, verticals, and then just numerous detailed coaching points throughout. Took two full pages of notes, just tips for stemming routes, stemming different types of routes, and tips for studying DBs, how you want to stem the route based on how the DB's playing. So check it out on Chiefpigskin. Totally worth the touchdown membership for this video and much, much more.
As always, guys, if you have questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Check me out and follow me on Twitter at Coach Klee. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. And if you have anything that maybe requires a longer response, hit me up at coachbrienklee@gmail.com. Thanks as always for tuning in. See you again.